You ever have one of those moments where something small spirals completely out of control? Yeah, that was me, all over a parking spot. It was just a regular Tuesday morning, sun beating down on the asphalt of our quiet suburban cul-de-sac. I'd just gotten back from work, running late, half a cup of coffee left, and there it was, my parking spot. Not officially assigned, but everyone knew that space next to the mailbox was mine. 5 years, same spot, unspoken rule. But that morning, a shiny silver SUV sat there, parked diagonally like it owned the street. I figured it was a guest or a new neighbor, until I saw the decal, student driver. Then I noticed her. Karen. The self-appointed queen of the neighborhood watch, standing with arms folded, that smug little smirk carved into her face. Beside her stood a teenage boy holding a learner's permit, her son. I rolled down my window and said, as calmly as I could, "Hey, Karen, I usually park there. Think your son can move the car?" She tilted her head and smiled that condescending smile that makes your blood pressure rise. "He needs the practice," she said. "You can park somewhere else today. It's not like your name's on it." I actually laughed because I thought she was joking. But she wasn't. So, I parked a few houses down, annoyed but not enough to make a scene. The next day, same thing. And the next. Then came the orange cone, like she was claiming it. That's when I decided to get technical. I looked up the HOA bylaws: no personal reservations, no cones, no blocking public access. Clear as daylight. I printed the section, highlighted it, and taped it to her cone. The next morning, my note was gone, and so was the cone. In their place was a bright yellow envelope taped to my front door. HOA violation notice. Harassment of a resident. I almost laughed. But it was signed by George, the HOA president, and suddenly it wasn't funny. Karen had weaponized the HOA. I called the office, and George picked up, sounding smug, like he'd been waiting for this. "Mr. Thompson, we've had multiple complaints about your behavior," he said. "Multiple? From who? Karen and her reflection?" He didn't even chuckle. "You're on notice. One more infraction and you'll be fined." That's when it hit me, Karen wasn't just pulling strings. She was the strings. She'd been cozying up to the board for months, baking cookies, hosting barbecues, volunteering. Classic manipulation. So, I played it cool. No more confrontation. But Karen wasn't done. A few days later, I found an orange unauthorized vehicle sticker slapped on my windshield, in front of my own house. I took pictures and emailed the HOA. Minutes later, they replied, "This vehicle is in violation of community parking regulations." There were no such regulations. That's when my sister-in-law Amy stepped in. She works for the state attorney's office. She looked everything over and smiled. "They're overstepping. That's public property, not HOA land. Let's remind them of that." She drafted a short, official-looking letter, clear, professional, on state letterhead, explaining the limits of HOA jurisdiction and the penalties for abuse of authority under Florida law. I printed 5 copies. One went to George, one to the HOA office, one taped to Karen's mailbox. Silence. 3 glorious days of peace. No cones, no stickers, no notes. Then, Friday evening, chaos returned. I came home to find Karen, her son, and 3 HOA board members standing in my driveway with clipboards. "We're conducting an inspection," Karen said, smug as ever. "Amy told me beforehand, don't argue. Let them dig their own hole." So I stood there quietly while they listed off made-up violations: harassment, unauthorized signage. Karen chimed in, "You've been recording residents." I blinked. "You mean when I took pictures of your illegal sticker?" Amy stepped out onto the porch, arms crossed, all calm confidence. "Is this an official HOA hearing?" she asked. George hesitated. "It's an informal inspection." "Good," Amy said. "Because an official one requires 72-hour notice and written consent to enter private property, which you don't have. You could feel the air drain out of the group. Karen's smirk faded. Amy continued, holding a folder. While we're here, we've reviewed several HOA complaints filed in this neighborhood, many from the same personal email account. Karen went red. George stuttered, that's not relevant. Amy's tone stayed icy smooth. It's very relevant. Filing false claims to intimidate a resident is harassment under state law. And that is within our jurisdiction. Karen's son started backing away toward their SUV, like he knew it was over. Within minutes, the inspection collapsed. The board members mumbled excuses and shuffled off. Karen didn't look back. For the first time in weeks, the street was quiet. But it wasn't over. 2 days later, a certified letter arrived, formal HOA hearing notice. They really wanted a fight. Fine. They'd get one. Wednesday, 6 p.m., Community Clubhouse. I arrived early, Amy by my side, looking every bit the professional, badge discreetly visible. The room was packed, half the neighborhood there for the drama. Karen sat front row, whispering to George. He cleared his throat. This hearing concerns Mr. Thompson's repeated disruptive behavior and harassment. Amy set down a thick binder with a loud thud. Before we proceed, I'd like this entered into record, she said evenly. It contains a timeline of all communications, photographs, property maps, and relevant Florida statutes. Karen scoffed, your client? This isn't a courtroom. Amy smiled. Exactly. Which means you have zero authority to penalize residents over public access property. These actions, warnings, fines, inspections, are misuse of power. Silence. She slid a document across the table. This is a formal inquiry notice from the state attorney's office outlining potential HOA violations under the Florida Accountability Act. False reporting and harassment carry penalties. George went pale. Karen's jaw dropped. We were just maintaining order, George stammered. Amy didn't blink. Order isn't maintained through intimidation. The room was dead silent. Even the neighbors looked shocked. By the end, the board voted to rescind every complaint. George apologized awkwardly before adjourning the meeting. Karen stormed out without a word. The next morning, her cone vanished. Her son's SUV was parked neatly in their driveway. And my spot? Empty. Peaceful. Waiting for me. Sometimes justice doesn't need flashing lights. Sometimes it comes on crisp letterhead with the right words. Karen brought the HOA, but we brought the receipts. Smash that like button, subscribe for more HOA justice, and tell me in the comments, have you ever had a neighbor like her?